checking out the buffet line. It looks delicious. And I can assure you that what you're having today is about a factor of 10 or 20 better than anything that you can eat in space. The space food is pretty good, but it's sort of like a camping trip. And so I wanted to talk to you a bit today about the history and the evolution of space food while you guys are enjoying lunch. So let's get started with my show. I was lucky enough to fly on 4 space shuttle missions, and we experienced, of course, the joys of space food there. Let's see if I can get this to work. Got the green on. So we'll just go with the next slide kind of technique. Here we go. Did you do that, John? Okay, so space food has a 50-year history from our very first steps into space. During Project Mercury, when the first Americans went into space, 1961, Alan Shepard, 1962, John Glenn, they went into space and they had an important experiment to investigate. Could a human being actually eat, swallow, and digest food in that free-fall environment, the weightless environment of space? Nobody knew the answer. They thought it might work, but they had to do the experiment to try it out. So in Mercury, the astronauts were able to eat bite-sized peanut cubes or chocolate brownie cubes, tubes of pudding, and you can see the examples of this stuff up here. The tubes were like toothpaste tubes. You could squeeze them through a little port on the space helmet. But they were all bite-sized and they were all moist enough so that crumbs wouldn't fly off the food and get into the instruments inside the cabin of the Mercury spacecraft. So here you've got a picture. Next one, please. Of John Glenn with his applesauce tube right here, floating in his weightless cabin on Friendship 7. And so John did the experiment, squeezed that applesauce into his mouth, and guess what? The experiment worked. He was able to swallow the food, went right down his esophagus and into his tummy. And so everybody was greatly relieved because you're going to have nutrition if you're going to actually do some work, demanding work up there in space. So why was he able to chew and swallow food successfully up there? Well, if you've been through biology class at school, there's a process that goes on when you chew and swallow called peristalsis. That's that wave of muscle action that sweeps food from the back of your throat down your esophagus to your stomach. And it works even if you're in space, or it works if you're hanging upside down from the jungle gym, or even in a swimming pool. You can actually chew and swallow no matter what the orientation of your esophagus is, right? So lucky for us, we can play outside, upside down, and eat, and we can also eat in space. And that was a great relief to the experimenters and the scientists. Okay, next one. We went to the Gemini program, longer flights now, 2 weeks in space. That simple Mercury menu was not going to work to keep astronauts interested in their food for a couple of weeks, so we had to expand that a bit. Gemini had freeze-dried foods, where the moisture had been removed to prevent spoilage. You added water back into the package with a squirt gun. So, for example, you could take a drink bag with some powdered drink, squirt water into the orifice, shake it up, put a straw in, you could drink a pouch of orange juice, for example. This pot roast was freeze-dried. You add the hot water, and you can eat that food after it moistened up for about 10 or 15 minutes. Only one problem. On the Gemini spacecraft, there was no hot and cold running water. There was a squirt gun that sort of gave you lukewarm water out of the life support system. So you had to eat sort of room temperature pot roast. Not the most appetizing thing. But it kept you going along with the bite-sized snacks that you could have during the trip. So they proved that you could survive on space food for a couple of weeks, long enough to survive a journey to the moon and back. Next one. Then we went to Apollo, missions to the moon, and they used the same freeze-drying techniques to preserve the food because they didn't have a refrigerator on these small, power-limited spacecraft. You've got drinks, you've got freeze-dried entrees, and you've got the bite-sized food like you see at the top. Next slide. Here's some more examples. You've got beef pot roast in a package again. Now, Apollo, in the command module, they did have hot water from their life support system. So they got hot meals, and that was great on the way to and from the moon. But on the moon itself, in the lunar lander, there was no hot water again. So you went to that sort of lukewarm food, camping out on the surface of the moon. I guess if I was on the moon, I wouldn't complain too much about the food. Next slide. Then we went to Skylab, and that was our first space station, with 3 astronauts living aboard for as long as 84 days. And so freeze-dried, lukewarm food was not going to cut it. So the guys on Skylab had the benefit of a freezer powered by solar energy up there. And they launched that Skylab space station with frozen steaks, frozen fish, grilled fish. They had frozen lobster and ice cream in that freezer. So They also had freeze-dried foods and this little food warmer built into the dining room table on Skylab could warm up the food cans of soups and entrees. And they also had the bite-sized snacks and the freeze-dried stuff from Apollo. You can use all of those to put your menu together. And one of the guys, Owen Garriott on Skylab, a friend of mine, told me that one of their favorite things to do was have a dinner together sitting next to the window looking at planet Earth outside while they had a steak dinner with ice cream and freeze-dried strawberries for dessert. Pretty good eating. What a great dining experience. High atop the Skylab room looking back at the Earth. Then we went on to Space Shuttle next. And my experience was on the Space Shuttle, where we flew missions as long as about 18 days. I was on the longest Space Shuttle mission, an 18-day meal. In some ways, we went backwards, because the shuttle did not have a freezer like Skylab. Instead, we went with compact storage of food in drawers aboard the shuttle, and it was all stored at room temperature. Couldn't allow it to spoil, so it had to be either freeze-dried or it had to be thermostabilized, where the foods are cooked in a foil pouch to destroy any bacteria that might cause the food to spoil. And that will keep the food safe for months or even years. So this is a typical selection of kinds of foods that we have on the Space Shuttle. We had the freeze-dried stuff, like this is probably a cream spinach over here. You've got ready-to-eat butter cookies and some peanut butter and jelly in these packets. M&Ms, although NASA cannot actually call those peanut M&Ms. They're called candy-coated chocolates because NASA doesn't want to be seen as endorsing one candy company over another. So there's a candy-coated chocolate. That was strictly what we had to say. There's some crackers and stuff. And then in these green pouches, we've got another kind of space food, the thermostabilized stuff. Anybody recognize that pouch from your experience out there? The Army guys, when they go out to live in the field, they eat rations like that in these foil pouches. I've got one right here. Anybody know what these are called? MREs. Yeah, what does MRE stand for?
Meals ready.
Right. Meals ready to eat. Well, NASA cooks its food in these pouches. They make their own MREs down by Houston in Texas at a food lab. And MRE in NASA speak stands for Meals Rejected by Everyone. They're actually pretty good. This is a sample labeled, says, tortellini with tomato sauce in this one. You heat them up in an oven. The package warms up and you just cut the end off with some scissors, and through the opening you eat the stuff with a spoon. This one is, it says beefsteak inside here. And that's actually a kind of an MRE that uses radiation to kill the bacteria in this pouch. And so you can squeeze out a nice grilled steak as well. They're pretty good. My favorite was chicken fiesta, which was chunks of chicken breast and a spicy salsa. And you spoon that hot mixture into a warm tortilla, and you're ready to go with a hot pocket sandwich, for example. So you've got freeze-dried, you've got thermostabilized, and you've got ready-to-eat meals, okay? Now on the space station today, next slide, please. Let's show you some examples of space shuttle menu stuff before we go to the space station story. So a shuttle crew would meet at the food lab in Houston at the Johnson Space Center, and you get, during lunch one day, just like you guys are sitting here, you get to try everything on the space shuttle or space station menu. So you get to try like a bite of this and a bite of that and a sip of this and a little gulp of soup. You get to try everything on the menu, and you write down on a form what you like and what you don't like in the food tasting session. And then you work with the nutritionists on the staff, and they help you develop a menu that will last throughout your mission. I was on 2-week-long shuttle missions, so I would develop a menu for me that had a different meal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, a different breakfast, lunch, and dinner for about 4 days running. And then I'd start to repeat on the 5th day. I'd start over again. And that was enough variety for me, mixing up these food and menu items. Next slide. Here's how we used to make our food on the space shuttle. There's a convection oven there in the center of this galley assembly right here that provides you a way to cook your meal. It's got a rehydration station, convection oven. Next picture. You've got this rehydration station. You dial up how much water you wanted to pour into the package or squirt into the package with a needle assembly. And then you put the pouch on the left in the clamp, dial up the amount, press the hot or the cold button, and you squirt water into the food package. And then it's either ready to eat in 10 or 15 minutes, or you can shake up that drink bag and put a straw in and you're ready to go. Next slide. Here's the oven. You've got all the food pouches in there. You close the door. 20 minutes, hot piping food ready to eat. Similar on the space station today, they've got a food warmer box that you put the pouches in, and it warms them up in about a half an hour. Next. We didn't use a microwave oven because that microwave energy might leak out of the oven or the galley and interfere with our navigation and computers aboard the shuttle. So just a convection oven. We had these wonderful shrimp cocktails that we ate for lunch as an appetizer for dinner. Why do we like shrimp cocktails so much? Well, it had this zesty horseradish sauce with these freeze-dried shrimp. And boy, you get a pop of that in your mouth and it opens up your sinuses like nobody's business. The first couple days you're in space, the fluid in your lower legs and your trunk sort of bobs up into the middle of your body as fluid shift, and it makes your head stuffy. Makes your sinuses get congested. Made me look like I had a sunburn for the first couple of days because of my flushed red face. And because your sinuses are a little bit clogged up, you can't smell as well. And that's part of enjoying our food, right? You smell the aromas on your plate. So when you take horseradish sauce from shrimp cocktail and open up your sinus passages, you can smell again. You can enjoy the food for an hour or so, and then of course you get adapted to space after a couple of days. And this is truly one of the most popular appetizers that the astronauts enjoy, even today on the space station. Next. So we've got an example of a holiday meal here, same as they enjoy on the space station today. We've got freeze-dried cornbread dressing, candied yams. They come in an MRE pouch along with sliced smoked turkey. I was in space on Thanksgiving, so we had not only this stuff, but we also had Dinty-Moore turkey dinners. They were in like a plastic tub that you could buy at the grocery store, and they were qualified by NASA for flight. So we had mashed potatoes and sliced turkey and gravy and stuffing all in one plastic box that we heated up in our convection oven. So not the best Thanksgiving in my life, but it was pretty special because I was in space while I was sharing it with my crewmates. Next. Okay, we've got fruit drink, the foil pouch. I've talked about that. Freeze-dried strawberries for dessert. Some examples of the freeze-dried asparagus. That was my favorite vegetable, freeze-dried asparagus. Even though it looks like somebody chewed it up for you, it's still pretty tasty. Next. How do you season your food? Well, here on the table you've got salt and pepper shakers, but you don't want to be sprinkling salt out into free fall and having the crystals drift around and getting your eyes or the equipment. So we have salt water, which you can squirt on your food, and the pepper solution is pepper flakes in cooking oil. So you just squirt a little bit of that on your food to season it. We also had condiments like taco sauce, picante sauce, ketchup, mustard, A1 steak sauce, all in those little foil or plastic restaurant fast food packages. And we use those as well. Next. Here's a typical way we stored food. We had George Zamke here, my friend, with several days' worth of meals in a drawer on the space shuttle, stored in a similar way on the station. Right here at the middle it says Day 3 Meal B. So in NASA speak, that's the third day of the flight, and Meal B is lunch. A, breakfast, B, lunch, C, dinner. Why did they just write lunch, breakfast, and dinner on there? I guess you have to be at NASA to understand that. But you pulled the food out for your crew out of that slot in the drawer, and one person could make up the whole meal in about 15 minutes. Now how did you tell who was having what? You know, there were 5 or 6 or 7 people on the shuttle. How do we tell who was having what on the menu? Well, there was a list of menus selections on the end of the box here. And then each crew member was assigned a colored dot, and each package, next slide, had some colored dots on it. So here's my green dot on one of my missions. These are some ready-to-eat fruit roll snacks here, but here's a can of smoked salmon with a green dot. So I knew that any food item with a green dot was mine. And if you don't have green dot as your color, if you're not green, if you're red or blue or yellow, and you ate my green dot food, I had the legal right to put you in the airlock and eject you overboard without a spacesuit. Do not eat somebody else's colored dot food. However, you can trade. One of my missions, I was up there with Story Musgrave, and he forgot to pack enough coffee. He was a real caffeine addict. I, on the other hand, had plenty of coffee on my menu, so I would trade my coffee strategically during the mission to Story, and I ate very well. I had lots of extra steak dinners as a result of me planning better than Story for his coffee needs. Next one. Here's my commander on Atlantis, Ken Cockrell. He's making a special breakfast. He's making us breakfast burritos on the shuttle middeck. And so what he's done is set up an assembly line of warm tortillas. You get a binder clip from Office Depot, and you have some Velcro on it. You stick your tortillas on the wall, and then you add some red picante sauce from the packets over here. That's the glue that sticks the freeze-dried scrambled eggs, and a freeze-dried sausage together onto that tortilla. Then you roll it up, and if he does the job quickly enough, you've got a nice warm breakfast burrito to start the day. And that was really a treat that he did for us a number of times during the mission. But if you're doing this operation up in space, do not fire the rocket engines on the vehicle while you're doing this, because all those eggs and sausage go flying across the cabin. It makes a big mess. I've been there, I've seen that, don't want to see that movie again. So that's a great breakfast burrito treat right there. Next one. And this is my trademark meal up there. I invented this meal myself. This is my chicken flying saucer sandwich. It's got an irradiated chicken breast. I put some pecani sauce on it, which glues it to the two warm tortillas. And now you just spin that across the cabin like a frisbee and have lunch that way. So it's a great one to eat on the go. Next slide. Here's a crew, eating up on the ceiling. You can eat on the walls. One of the great things about spaceflight is you can try your meal in almost any position. Typical shuttle meal scene. It's similar to this on the space station today. Next. And you can gobble down snacks while you're on the go. Lauren Schreiber with some M&Ms. Oh, I'm sorry, chocolate-coated peanuts. Enjoying these snacks. I've got a little movie here that shows you some of the fun you can have with weightless food. Let's go ahead. M&Ms in a bubble of water. This is Jose Hernandez with some M&Ms. Fluids tend to form this globular sphere up there because of surface tension, the sticky water molecules. Next. And some soft drinks in microgravity. We tried that once back in the 1980s. You don't want to drink soda up in space. Why is that? Well, if you drink a bag of soda and ingest it, the bubbles in the soda, normally you just burp them out, right? When you're finished with your beverage, very discreetly and politely, of course. But in space, there's no density difference, so the bubbles do not rise to the top of your stomach. They just stay down there and make you feel uncomfortable for 4 or 5 hours. So you don't want to eat or drink carbonated beverages up there in space. It was an experiment that failed. Next. Here's a little movie about enjoying fluids up in space. Let's see if we can get this to run. Here we go. This is Greg Lanteros on a space lab mission aboard the shuttle. I think he's got a blob of, 2 blobs, in fact, of apple juice that he's steering around the cabin with puffs of his own breath. Now they're coalescing into one blob thanks to that surface tension of the water molecules. And now his big worry is that it's going to crash into one of the science experiments or a computer, so he has to make sure he gets rid of it. And these are some of my friends. Classmate Jim also here. He's going after a butter cookie. And here's a helpless school of goldfish being devoured by some astronaut sharks. We've got Jim and Don Thomas and Greg, and they're all going after the goldfish crackers. The rule of this game is you cannot let a single one escape. Very cruel, very, very unjust, but you've got to eat them all. Next slide. So that sort of gives you a sense of the space shuttle experience. Very similar to the space station today, because up there on the space station you've got 6 astronauts. NASA provides about 180 menu items. The Russians provide about another 100. So you've got almost 300 things you can choose from to make your menu aboard the space station today. And astronauts, of course, are free to choose what they would like, either from their prepared menu, or they can just go to the pantry and eat whatever they would like. So you have a lot of variety to choose from. Special cargo packages arrive about every 2 months with special treats sent from home as well. One of the things that was nice about my experience was that each astronaut aboard my shuttles could choose one special food from home that they could take to space with them. And so the nutritionist would check it out. If it's stored properly and wasn't going to spoil, you could take it to space. I used to take these snack cakes with me. These are from a company up in the Mid-Atlantic where I grew up called Tasty Cake. Anybody ever hear of them? Tasty Cakes. So they had chocolate cupcakes. They're sort of like Hostess snacks. This one's called a butterscotch crumpet. And fortunately for NASA, Tasty Cake Company makes these snack cakes such that you could leave this on the shelf for 10 years and it wouldn't taste different at all for 10 years on the shelf. So it's perfect for spaceflight. This is one of my favorite snacks. I take them up there and trade with other people for treats that I like that they had brought up to. We have chocolate chip cookies from one guy, Tasty Cakes for me. So let's see, do we have any teachers in the room today? Okay, you're a teacher?
You can hand up if you want.
Okay, well, I'll let you try the Tasty Cake. But There's 280 people in the room. I want you to cut this into 280 equal pieces and share it with everybody else, okay? Real space food, one of my favorites up there in orbit. Now, we've talked about the input side, the eating side of spaceflight. You want to talk about the output side? Are you finished with your lunch yet? So here's my biology class diagram. You know, the astronauts up there are digesting food, and then you've got to get rid of the waste products, okay? So let's talk about that next picture. Here's the space shuttle toilet. If you went over to the Atlantis in the exhibit building, you'd see this little bathroom compartment. It's about the size of an airliner toilet. I've got a story to share with you, so you'll keep the chatter down just a little bit. Thank you. So down here on the ground, you go to the restroom, everything goes where it's supposed to go because of gravity. Up in space, we don't have that sensation of gravity. We're in free fall. So we have to have a substitute, and that's moving air. The engineers designed the toilets to work with moving air. You flip the switch to turn it on, the fan starts up, and on the shuttle toilet, air would be drawn into the end of the gray hose right here. Right there. And next picture, I think we have a space station toilet picture. Yes, on the right-hand side. Long hose with a funnel on the end. The air goes rushing down that hose, and of course you hold it up next to your body. The liquid urine goes down the hose into a storage tank. You wipe off your hands with a baby wipe or a sterile nap, a moist, wet nap, and you're on your way back to work. It's very quick and easy. The seat on the space station toilet, again similar to the shuttles, is right here. This is a Russian-designed toilet. There's two of them up on the space station right now. The air goes down the chute underneath the toilet seat, which is standing up, and then that airflow blows the solid waste away from your body down into that chute, into that silvery storage container there. And each person cleans up after they use it, and they prepare it for the next astronaut who comes along. Okay? Now on the shuttle, after 2 or 3 weeks, we would come home, and the storage compartment underneath the seat here would be cleaned out by the technicians here, and then it would be ready for its next launch. So they refurbish the toilet after every flight. Well, on the space station, it's been up there for 15 years with people aboard. It doesn't come in for a landing. So when that canister fills up after about a week, the astronauts remove it, seal it tightly, it's full of the crew's solid waste, and then they replace it with an empty canister, and the cycle begins over again. And they take the full canisters and they pack it with all the trash and stuff. About every 3 months, a cargo ship, emptied of its new supplies, is filled up with the garbage and broken equipment and trash. It undocks from the space station, fires its retro rockets, and that supply ship burns up as it dives into the Earth's atmosphere. It gets incinerated along with all the crew's solid waste. Atomized. So the next time you look up into the night sky, you see a shooting star going across the heavens. It's just a gift from the astronauts. Now, this is an important point here because we recycle the urine. It goes into a separate storage tank. It goes into a machine that distills the urine and the humidity from the air from the air conditioning system. And that's purified, and the astronauts drink that recycled water, the urine and the humidity. And that saves about 70% of the water that's sent up to the space station. Very important if we're going to go to Mars one day on a journey that might last 2.5 years. We're going to have to learn how to recycle the solid waste from the toilet for these long voyages. So you young people out here, you're going to be the ones who invent the process by which we use that solid waste. Maybe we use it in a greenhouse and grow plants with that fertilized material. And then that'll recycle the air aboard the spaceship as well as the solid waste. Or maybe we use a chemical reaction that turns it into some other kind of useful thing, like rocket fuel. There's got to be a way that we can use the crew's solid waste, and we're going to have to recycle it to get to Mars one day. Other challenges? Next slide, by the way. Oh, let's go back one. Thank you. Can we go back one slide? Yeah, on the shuttle toilet, we stored, like on the station, we stored the urine in a storage tank. And on the shuttle, we would not recycle that water. We would just dump it overboard when the tank became full. So when we vented that water out into space periodically, the urine would freeze instantly when it hit the vacuum of space, and it would jet outside. Let's kind of show that little movie. So here's the urine freezing when it hits the vacuum of space. Beautiful comet tail out there in the vacuum. We used to call that the constellation Orion. All right, thank you. So on the way to Mars, we're going to have to recycle, of course, that urine even more efficiently than we do on the space station. Another challenge on going to Mars is having to do with space food. Go ahead to the next slide. Another challenge is the food may break down on a 3-year-long voyage under radiation exposure. So we have to come up with techniques that preserve the food, make it nutritious, that will still supply the crew with their dietary needs after 3 to 5 years in space. That's one of the technology challenges we have. And again, we need some young inventors studying science and engineering and helping out in the space food field. So let me close with some advice to you, some future space travelers. There are certain things on the menu that I wrote that I really liked, and there are certain space foods that I didn't want to eat when I was up there in space. Here is an example of a space food to avoid. Next one. All right, I think that's the end of our food talk in space. Let's have some questions and answers from all of you guys. Thank you.
Yes, I'm Jones.